Stuti Ghosh. Well, if 2020 had decided to behave itself, things would have been very different. Because right now the Toronto International Film Festival is on, and I think I would be having this conversation with my very special guest today in Toronto, but things are what they are. And we have Chaitanya Tamhane here. Thank you so much for taking our time for this.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
I want you to tell us, because you're glowing, and the reason we know your film screened at the Venice Film Festival, then Toronto, which has garnered so much praise and awards. It won the Best Screenplay Award and the Film Presky Award. So, of course, you're a happy man. I can understand that. But when you had conceptualized The Disciple, when you shot it, and you also got so much praise for the court. So were you slightly nervous? Will I be able to live up to the expectations?
Right. No, so it's a long process, right? I mean, it took me 4 years to make The Disciple. So even if there is any kind of pressure, it's not going to last you for that long. Once you get busy working, you're just, focusing and working. I guess initially there was a little bit of nervousness that, okay, maybe there is some expectation now. And, I had also come from Mexico, where I had interacted with Alfonso. And so I was like, okay, I've had, lots of encouragement and lots of privileges that have been granted. So I need to now do justice to all of this. So there was a little bit of that. But once I started working, I was just focusing on the work. And what happened. And yes, you're right. It's been very good, the reception to the film. And we are so grateful and, most importantly, just so relieved that in such a strange year, this film could come out. And, it started its journey because things were looking so uncertain.
Absolutely.
For everybody from March 2020. So we're just very happy and very relieved.
So, we are watching films digitally, the one selected for TIFF. And for those who are watching this interview, I think people back home in India, there's some time before they can watch your film, The Disciple.
Some time, but not a lot of time. The film just premiered a few days ago. And we want to do our best and bring the film out in India to as wide an audience as possible. It's just that there's so much uncertainty about when cinemas will reopen, when the situation will normalize, or if we have to go with an OTT platform. So all of that is being discussed. We are in talks with a lot of players, but I assure you it won't be a lot of time. Very soon it will come out in India.
Perfect, because I'm sure everyone's, getting very impatient. We're hearing some, such good things about it.
We are more impatient than anybody else for this film to release in India.
I can imagine. You mentioned Alfonso Cuaron, and I think any budding filmmaker, anyone who has anything to do with film would have been so jealous of the fact that you have him on board as the executive producer. Talk us through that process. How did it happen? And, what was it like working with him?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, I feel very lucky that he, happened to me in some ways, because I met him because of the Rolex Mentor Protege Arts Initiative, where they pair an upcoming artist and a master of the discipline. So there are many disciplines like music, architecture, visual arts, films. And I had known about this program since like 2012. Again, it was one of those dreams that I had. The thing is, you can't apply for this program. You have to be invited to even apply. So when I got the call that, hey, do you want to apply for this? Cuaron is the mentor. I was like, yes, hell yes, I want to do it. And luckily he chose me as his protege after lots of rounds of selection. And then it was just great. I got to be on the sets of Roma. I got to see him at work, even during post-production. And our relationship kind of evolved over the last 4 years. And he'd been very involved with The Disciple right from its genesis. Even when it was not a script, it was just an idea he knew about the film. And he always had feedback on the script, on the edit. He helped me find crew members. He was always very, very supportive. Once he saw the finished film, he was like, you know what, I want to do everything that I can to support the film in any possible way. And I was like, really? Wow, that's amazing. That's something. And then it was just a matter of time before he decided to officially, formally sort of associate himself with the film. And, our joys knew no bounds. We were so happy.
A lot of us have seen Court and we love your aesthetics. We love what you do. But with this, with Cuaron, do you think somewhere that that embellished you, and you learned a lot of new things that actually helped you in your cinematic journey?
Of course. I mean, one is always evolving, one is always trying to learn and be better. And with, I guess, time and age and your concerns in life as they change, your filmmaking also changes. And yes, I have learned a lot from Alfonso. I think he's made me more ambitious. I
Oh,
think he's
okay.
raised my standards, to be even higher. And I hope that shows in the film. I hope that, because there's no direct connection. Everybody has a different, unique personality and a unique style of making their films. But still, there are so many things, one learns on a practical level and a philosophical level from a master, like Alfonso. So I hope when you see the film, you see something like that.
Absolutely. So, if I were to ask you, what is that one thing that you really treasure that probably Alfonso taught you, or you learned from your interactions with him?
I think the one thing, if I had to, I mean, there are so many things, but if there's one thing that, if I had to say I learned from him, or the thing that he always pushes me for, is to never settle for less. Is to never limit your dreams. Is to never limit your vision. Is to demand the best. That's, I think, the one thing.
I mean, that's great news for all your fans, huh? Like you've said, you've become more ambitious, which means we'll see your next project soon. It won't take as long as.
Well, if only my working style and time was connected to my ambitions. Actually, the bigger the ambitions, the more time it probably will take. No, but I will definitely try to do something quicker this time. I want to myself.
Apart from the magic that you create on screen, I think what's also amazing is your journey. Like I was reading about how you were writing stories for daily soaps at a very young age, at 17, 18. You spoke about how there was a time when you were so dejected that you wanted to end it all, and then to be here and to be saying that I don't want to limit my vision and I've become more ambitious. How is life for an independent filmmaker? Those who are watching this interview, I mean, what would you say? How tough, how easy?
I mean, not just independent. I think for any filmmaker, the life is sort of riddled with, insecurities, uncertainties, and highs, extreme highs and extreme lows, because you're only as good as your last film, as the cliche goes. And for independent filmmakers, it's a lot more difficult because there is no studio backing. There is no institutional funding in a country like India for independent films. So it really becomes a challenge on every level, from raising finance to the execution of the project, and then how to distribute it, who is the buyer, how do we reach an audience, is there even an audience in the country for the at least is there enough of an audience for this to be a sustainable model and a sustainable economy in itself. So it is very difficult. It's a life risk, I would say, in a way, because beyond the point, just acclaim and reviews are not going to pay your bills. You know what I mean? So it is a tough one. It is a tough one. But the Disciple also deals with that, because what's happening with cinema right now is not very different with what's happening with, say, classical music in that sense, even though it's a much older art form. So the Disciple touches upon a lot of these themes, and it's very personal in a way. A lot of my own personal concerns have been reflected in the script. So I'm excited for everybody to watch the film, because it discusses some of these issues.
So the 17, 18-year-old Chaitanya who was writing those serials, he always knew this is where he's going to be. These are the films.
Well, it's funny, because that's where that ambition kind of, was seeded in my head of wanting to be a filmmaker. Because while I was working in Balaji, there were like seniors around me, some of them who I consider to be my mentors, introduced me to world cinema. And that is when it kind of, opened my mind. Oh, there are films being made outside of the country. And that was also the age when I decided that, I want to do this. I want to direct films. So 17-year-old Chaitanya would be very happy that, the Disciple is in Venice, is in competition, and it's getting so much love, So in that sense, it feels very fulfilling, and I feel very lucky.
There's this one ongoing debate, and as film critics, we are generally told, critics might like a film, but audiences will not. 100 crores or 200 crores are these masala films. Audience nahi hai, see, arty films ke liye, these are things that are still said
Yeah.
sometimes by even mainstream filmmakers.
Yeah.
Now that you're looking forward to releasing The Disciple on such a large scale, you want people in India to watch. Do you think there is an audience and an audience mature enough to appreciate films like this, or you think that divide continues where the very typical Bollywood masala films will have its audience, and it's difficult to kind of then fight for the attention for films like this?
Right. It's a complicated question. I mean, is there a divide? Is a larger question. Is there a divide in terms of how much we earn every year in our annual income? There is, right? Is there a divide in where some people of a society live and where other people of a society, live? There are such stark contrasts and disparity in the country in every way. So of course, culturally also there is going to be some form of disparity. Is this film going to be for everybody? I don't think any film is for everybody. At the same time, is the audience ready enough? Is the audience mature enough? I mean, I would never want to underestimate an audience. Things are constantly changing. The world is becoming smaller. People are getting more and more used to watching international content, watching content with subtitles, and their tastes are changing. The old systems are collapsing, I would say. The old models are collapsing, and people are wanting something new. So no matter what the size of the audience is, the worst thing is to underestimate them and to declare or pronounce that Indian audiences are not sensitive or intelligent enough to get this. That is the worst thing that we can do, I feel.
Right. So the other thing is you pay a lot of attention to casting, and in The Disciple, which is about it's about classical music, you've actually taken musicians and made them act. These are not professional actors. So how was this experience like?
Well, it was familiar because of court in some ways, but it was also very new because there were just so many restrictions we were working with. When some of my collaborators read the script, they were like, how are you going to cast for this? तूने लिख तो दिया है, but तू करेगा कैसे इसको? So I was like, yeah, it's a tough one. They had to be able to speak Marathi. They had to be classically trained musicians. They almost kind of had to be from the same gharana also, because otherwise their singing styles would be so varyingly, different. And they had to have a screen presence, and they had to deliver scripted lines, so they needed an acting bone in their body, and who would be interested and committed enough to give so much time that we wanted. So it was one of those processes which took a lot of time, and there was a casting team of about 5 or 6 people, because I must tell you, not just the primary cast but also the secondary cast, and also each and every audience member that you're going to see in a concert has been carefully chosen to depict the world of concerts and classical music in an authentic manner. So yeah, there's a lot of detailing that goes into it, which sometimes we wonder if it's going to even show, but I personally believe that every little detail counts in forming the final picture.
Okay. My final question to you, Chaitanya, it's a trap that all of us fall into, which is we, a lot of times feel that the only kind of films that are being made in India is Bollywood, and we completely forget the amazing work that so many, other filmmakers in various other Indian languages are doing. You've made Marathi films. Would you ever make a Hindi film? Will you take a big Bollywood star? Now that you're saying you're very ambitious, does that mean you will kind of have a bigger canvas? Is that something, an idea?
But I don't know if that's got anything to do with language. For me, language is texture. Like I tell everybody that the budget of The Disciple is as good or even more in some ways than a Hindi film. So it's never been about whether I want to make the film in Hindi, or for me it's an Indian film, and it also depends on the setting or the story or the milieu that I'm trying to sort of capture, and what is the language that's naturally spoken in that milieu. So never say never. I mean, why not? If there is a subject that demands Bollywood stars and Hindi as a language, why not? So I'm open in that sense, but it's not my aim or only ambition in life.
Okay. And before I say bye-bye, do you want to give us a hint of what is it that you're working on next?
The honest truth is, I don't know. I have a few ideas floating in my head, but I haven't decided exactly what I want to do, because it's a long commitment. It's going to be a long commitment. I like to do things 100%. So let's see. I don't know yet.
Super. So, hearing such great things from TIFF, congratulations, Chaitanya. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
a
Thank
lot
you.
of praise and many more awards are going to come your way. Thank you so much for speaking to me.
Thank you, Stuti.